You've just given birth. It's 40,000 years ago. The pain is fading, the baby is crying, the women around you are smiling, and then something happens that no one expected. Another baby starts to come. Twins. In the world you live in today, that's a surprise, maybe a logistical nightmare, but a joy. In the world of ancient humans, that second baby could mean something very different. It could mean a miracle, or it could mean that one of those two newborns would not leave the birthing ground alive. Because here is the brutal truth, almost no one tells you about the human body. We are not built to have twins, and for most of human history, the arrival of two babies at once forced a community into one of the most agonizing decisions it would ever face. So what did ancient humans actually do about twins? Did they celebrate them or fear them? Did they see two tiny miracles, or a curse, an omen, something unnatural that had to be dealt with? And how, in a world with no formula and no help from modern medicine, could a single mother possibly keep two newborns alive at the same time? The answer splits the human species almost perfectly in half, because some cultures worshipped twins as gods, and others could not let them live. By the end of this video, I'll show you the single factor that decided which and why one group of people on Earth today has more twins than any population in human history. But to understand the choice, you first have to understand the problem. And the problem is written into your own biology. Let's start with a fact that changes everything. Humans are what biologists call a carrying species. Our babies are not like a litter of puppies, left in a den while the mother hunts. A human infant is born helpless, unable to walk, unable to cling, unable to even hold up its own head for months. It has to be carried constantly against a warm body with access to milk at all times for years. And that single fact is the reason twins were a catastrophe. Think about what one human baby demands. It must be carried everywhere, because it cannot be set down safely in a world of predators. It must be breastfed on demand, sometimes dozens of times a day. It burns through the mother's energy at a staggering rate. For an ancient mother, a single infant was already close to the limit of what one human body could physically sustain. Now double it. Two babies, two mouths, both needing to nurse constantly, from a body that produces a finite amount of milk. Two infants, both needing to be carried by a mother who has only two arms and must still walk, gather food, and flee from danger. Two lives, each demanding the full attention that evolution designed for one. The math is merciless. In a mobile hunter-gatherer world, a mother physically could not carry two infants and everything else her survival required. She could not produce enough milk to fully nourish two at once. If she tried to raise both alone, the very real risk was that she would lose not one baby, but both, and possibly her own life in the effort. This is the core of the entire story. Twins were not just double the joy. In an ancient world, they were double the impossible. And this is why the response to twins was never neutral. Across the human species, twins triggered something powerful: fear, awe, dread, worship, rarely indifference, because everyone understood on some level that two babies at once was not normal. It broke the rules of how humans were supposed to arrive. Which brings us to the second reason twins were so unsettling. They were, quite literally, uncanny. Try to imagine the ancient world for a moment. There are no mirrors, not really, no photographs, no screens. In your entire life, you may never see two people who look exactly alike. Every face is unique, every person is one of a kind. And then two babies are born who are identical. To us, we know the biology. One fertilized egg split in two. But to an ancient human with no concept of cells or eggs or DNA, two identical humans would have been one of the strangest, most impossible things they had ever seen. Two bodies, one face. It looked less like nature and more like magic, or like a warning. And ancient humans reached for explanations. In many cultures, the birth of two children at once raised a disturbing question about how they got there in the first place. Some societies developed the belief that a single father could only make a single child. So if a woman gave birth to two, it must mean that two different men were involved. To some groups, especially where such things mattered enormously for kinship and honor, twins became living evidence of suspected infidelity, a scandal made flesh, crying in the mother's arms. Other cultures went further and stranger. Multiple births were sometimes associated with animals, because animals have litters, and humans supposedly do not. A woman who gave birth like an animal might be seen as having crossed some invisible line, as having brought something not fully human into the world. You can already feel where this is heading. When something is seen as unnatural, as a bad omen, as evidence of scandal or a broken taboo, the response is often fear. And fear, in a world where survival was already balanced on a knife's edge, could be deadly. So let's talk about the darker pole of how ancient humans responded to twins. Because in a significant number of cultures documented by anthropologists, twins were not celebrated. They were feared. And sometimes, tragically, they were not allowed to live. I want to be careful and honest here, because this is a heavy subject. Twin infanticide, the killing or abandonment of one or both twins, has been documented across a range of traditional societies on multiple continents. In parts of West Africa, in some Amazonian groups, in scattered communities across the Pacific and beyond, the birth of twins was sometimes met not with joy, but with dread, and a decision no parent should ever have to make. And it's crucial to understand why, because the reasons are not what a modern viewer might assume. This was rarely about cruelty. It was almost always about two things colliding: impossible survival math and belief. The survival math we've already seen. A mother who genuinely could not keep two infants alive faced an unthinkable choice. In the harshest interpretation, a community might decide that trying to save both would doom both, and that the survival of one child and the mother was better than losing everyone. It was a horrifying calculation, but for people living at the very edge of what the land could provide, it was a calculation about survival, not malice. The belief part is where it gets more complex, where twins were seen as an omen, as unnatural, as a sign of spiritual danger to the whole group. The fear could override even a parent's love. If a community believed that twins would bring famine, disease, or catastrophe upon everyone, then the pressure to act was not just about one family. It was framed as protecting the entire band. And there's a particularly painful pattern that shows up again and again. In some cultures, the belief was that only one of the twins was the real or human child, and the other was something else, a spirit, an imposter, a shadow. This belief, as devastating as it is, may have been a psychological mechanism, a way of making an impossible survival decision bearable by telling a story in which only one child was ever truly meant to stay. It is one of the darkest chapters in the human story, but it is real, and pretending it didn't happen would be a lie. For a huge portion of human history, in a huge portion of human cultures, the arrival of twins was a crisis, and not every twin survived it. But, and this is where the story turns, that is only half of humanity. Because at the very same time, in other cultures, twins were the exact opposite of a curse. They were sacred, and nowhere on earth is this more powerful than among the Yoruba people of what is now Nigeria. So hold on to this, because it's your rewatch fact, and it connects to a genuine biological mystery. The Yoruba have one of the highest rates of twin births ever recorded in any human population. While the global average for natural twinning hovers somewhere around 1 in every 80 or so births, among the Yoruba it has been recorded at rates many times higher, historically some of the highest on the planet. And here is the beautiful part. In Yoruba culture, twins, called ìbejì, are not feared. They are revered. They are considered spiritually powerful, bringers of good fortune, blessings upon the family that receives them. Far from being a curse, having twins is an honor. This connection is almost too perfect to be a coincidence. A people with an extraordinary number of twins developed a culture that treasures them, and it makes profound sense. When twins are rare and strange, they can be treated as an ominous anomaly. But when twins are common, when many families have them, a culture adapts to embrace them, to build meaning and joy around them rather than fear. And the Yoruba reverence goes to a place that is genuinely moving. Because twin infant mortality is naturally higher, the Yoruba developed a tradition around a twin who dies. A special carved wooden figure, an ìbejì figure, is created to represent the lost child. And that figure is not put away or buried. It is cared for, washed, dressed, fed symbolically, kept as part of the family, so that the spirit of the twin who died is never abandoned, and the balance between the two is never broken. Sit with that for a moment. In one part of the world, a culture could not let a twin live. In another, a culture would not let a twin be forgotten, even in death. That's the same human species, the same biology, two completely opposite answers to the exact same event. And the reverence for twins is not just a Yoruba story. It echoes across human mythology on a scale that's hard to ignore. Think of how often twins appear in our oldest legends. Romulus and Remus, the twin founders of Rome. Divine twins appear in cultures all over the world, in Greek myth, in Norse belief, in Native American traditions, in African and Asian mythologies. The constellation Gemini, the twins, has been recognized for thousands of years. Over and over, human cultures place twins at the center of their sacred stories, as founders, as gods, as heroes, as symbols of duality itself, the two halves of existence. There is something about two identical beings arriving together that struck the human imagination as profound, as touching something beyond the ordinary world. So we have two poles. On one side, twins as a curse, an omen, a survival impossibility that sometimes ended in tragedy. On the other, twins as gods, blessings, sacred beings honored even after death, which leaves the biggest question of all. What decided which? Why did one community fear twins and another, sometimes not far away, worship them? The answer, as far as we can reconstruct it, comes down to a combination of factors, and it's the key I promised you at the start. The first factor is resources. In an environment where food was scarce and survival was brutally hard, twins were more likely to be a threat because the math of feeding and carrying two was simply impossible. In a richer environment with more food and more hands to help, twins were more likely to be survivable, and therefore more likely to be welcomed. The second factor is frequency. Where twins were rare, they were strange, and strangeness bred fear. Where twins were common, as among the Yoruba, they became a normal, understood, even celebrated part of life. Familiarity turned dread into reverence. And the third factor, the one that could actually save a twin's life, was the community. Remember, the reason twins were so dangerous was that one mother could not raise two infants alone. But ancient humans didn't raise children alone. They practiced cooperative breeding, where the whole group shared the work of keeping infants alive. And this is where twins could be saved. If a band had enough helping hands, a grandmother, aunts, other nursing mothers who could share the feeding, then the impossible math of two infants could suddenly become possible. Another woman who had recently given birth or lost a child could nurse one twin while the mother nursed the other. The carrying could be shared. The burden could be split across many arms instead of two. In other words, whether twins lived or died often came down to a single, brutal question. Did the community have enough to go around? Enough food, enough hands, enough belief that these two children were worth the extraordinary effort of keeping both alive? Where the answer was yes, twins could become a blessing. Where the answer was no, they became a tragedy. The same babies, the same biology, a completely different fate, decided not by the twins themselves, but by the world they were born into. And this points to something deeper about our species that's easy to miss. Why are human twins so rare in the first place? Many mammals routinely have litters. Multiple offspring at once is completely normal for them. But humans, overwhelmingly, have one baby at a time. And now you understand why. Because we invest so heavily, for so long, in each single child, our biology is built around the one. A body optimized to pour years of milk, warmth, and carrying into a single, slowly developing infant. Twinning, in this light, isn't really an advantage for humans the way it is for a mouse. For most of our history, it was a risk, a doubling of the one thing our species does most expensively. That may be exactly why human twinning rates stayed relatively low compared to litter-bearing animals. We are, deeply and fundamentally, a one-at-a-time species. Twins were the exception that stressed the entire system. And here's a final twist that brings it right to today. In the modern world, twin birth rates have actually been rising, not because our biology suddenly changed, but because of fertility treatments and women having children later in life, both of which increase the odds of twins. So the very thing that was once a survival catastrophe is now, in a world of hospitals and formula and endless helping hands, simply another kind of family. The danger didn't leave because twins changed. It left because we finally built a world that could carry two. So, what did ancient humans do about twins? They did everything. They feared them and they worshipped them. They saw omens and they saw gods. In some places, they could not let both live. In others, they would not let either be forgotten, carving figures to keep a lost twin's spirit alive for generations. And underneath every single one of those responses was the same, unchanging truth. Twins broke the rule that our species is built on. One child at a time, carried in loving arms for years. Two at once forced ancient humans to confront the hard limits of their bodies, their food, and their world. And how they answered, with fear or with reverence, with tragedy or with celebration, depended on whether their community had enough to carry both. Now go back to that birthing ground 40,000 years ago. The first baby crying, and then the impossible second one arriving. The women around you falling silent because they know exactly what this means. What happened next was never really about the twins. It was about everyone else. About whether there were enough hands, enough food, enough belief in that circle to make room for two lives instead of one. And every single set of twins alive on Earth today Every pair of identical faces, every siblings who share a birthday, is the descendant of a long history in which their arrival was one of the most powerful and most dangerous things that could happen to a human family. So here's my question for you. If you had been there, in the hunger, in the cold, in a world with barely enough to keep one baby alive, do you think your community would have found a way to carry two? Or do you think the answer would have broken your heart? Tell me honestly in the comments. I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one. Pay attention. Somewhere in your family tree, two arrived where one was expected, and someone somehow made room.